what if Jesus was aborted?
Well, the world would be far worse off given we'd have to live without all the benefits that Christianity has given us.
Well, maybe God would learn a lesson about consent and asking for it before he knocks up a teenager.
What are you talking about? The Bible tells us Mary was a virgin. There was no intercourse involved. It also doesn't tell us Mary's age when Jesus was conceived. Scholarly estimates indicate that Jewish girls in Palestine at this time would marry between their late teens to early 20s, so Mary was probably around the age of 18. And most importantly, Luke tells us that Mary consented to God's plan. She wasn't forced to go along with this against her will. Now, some argue that Mary really didn't have a choice in the matter regarding Jesus' conception. She didn't have the power to negotiate, nor was she explicitly offered a choice in the matter. So she really wasn't free to say yes because there was no alternative possibility. Therefore, it was impossible for her to freely consent. But this is based on an outdated understanding of free will, which assumes that free will requires the ability to do otherwise. But Frankfurt cases, named after the philosopher Harry Frankfurt, show that this is not the case. A typical Frankfurt case can run like this. Mr. Black wants to unalive Mr. Smith, but he's not going to do it himself. Instead, he puts a mind control device in someone we will call Mr. Jones. Now, if Mr. Jones decides not to unalive Mr. Smith, the device will switch on and force him to do it. However, Mr. Black observes that Mr. Jones goes in and unalives Mr. Smith of his own free will, and the device never switches on and forces him to do it. In this hypothetical case, Mr. Jones lacks the ability to do otherwise, but he is still morally responsible for unaliving Mr. Smith. Therefore, moral responsibility, or consenting to something, does not require the ability to do otherwise. And there are much better ways to define free will, like the one proposed by Robert Cain, which is that free will is the power to be the ultimate creator and sustainer of one's own ends and purposes, or the one proposed by Michael McKenna and Dirk Perboom. Free will is the unique ability of persons to exercise the strongest sense of control over their actions necessary for moral responsibility. So because free will does not require the ability to do otherwise, Mary could consent to God's plan, regardless if she was offered an alternative possibility or not. We also must remember that since God is omniscient, he would know the right woman to pick for this important task, who would be fully on board and not feel coerced at all. So given all these factors, Mary was not forced to conceive Jesus and become the mother of God. She clearly consents in the text, and moral responsibility or consent does not require the ability to do otherwise, even if that was lacking in this situation.